Today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. I recently joined as a member, and you can too. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with the advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co.
And please put unprofessional development in the How Did You Hear About Podgo? That will give us a little finder's fee. Thank you. Hello, unprofessionals. So as you know, now we're doing real commercials, not just the silly ones that we normally do. So today I've got with me my daughter Micah. Say hello, Micah.
Hi.
She has an Etsy account. It's called what?
Roo Makes Bracelets.
Roo Makes Bracelets, okay? We'll put a link in the show notes for you for sure. So she makes some friendship bracelets. She even has one that is kind of an unprofessional bracelet where she's made the unpro letters in the bracelet. So if you need a bracelet, go to Roo's Bracelets. Anything else you want to say about your bracelets?
No.
Okay. Well, she's a little kid. She's 11 years old. She's entrepreneuring. You know, support her. And go to Roo's Bracelets. Click the link in the show notes. Thank you. Say goodbye, Micah.
Bye.
Unprofessionals, we need your help. Mealy and I keep trying to explain to the world how special we are, but they won't believe us. Here's what you can do. Check in the show notes for the link to the People's Podcast Awards. And please nominate us so the rest of the world can realize exactly how amazing we are. Enjoy!
This is Mealy from Unprofessional Development.
And Tedisco from Unprofessional Development.
And you got your boy Kevin Adams from the Two Dope Teachers and a Mic podcast.
And I'm Gerardo Muñoz, co-host of Two Dope Teachers and a Microphone.
There we go.
I like
All
the
right.
balance here because it's two dope teachers and a mic with two dopey teachers on Skype.
Nice.
Oh,
Bars!
That's
Thanks.
bars, though. That's
Yes.
bars, though.
Yes. Oh.
I love it. I love it.
That's actually, our Twitter trolls will often refer to us as two dopes or two teachers on dope.
Yes.
It's great. And
That's
I'm like,
good.
Fruit, guys.
I'm like, that's
All right, aim
funny.
higher.
y'all
That's
are
good.
funny.
That's good. I love that. I love that.
Yes, I was talking to my wife about it, and I said, well, I guess they could have gone with Deaf Teacher Jam. I guess that would have worked as well, but
Yo,
Deaf Teacher Jam.
Deaf Teacher Jam's kind of dope.
Deaf Teacher Jam. That's like a Friday night thing. Deaf Teacher Jam is like, you're like, oh, the kids are like, I didn't know you were like that, mister. I didn't know you got that. Oh, wow.
Let me tell you something about kids. Oh,
Deaf Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, Russell Simmons will come first. I mean, that's honestly that's
yes.
part of why we went with TOO instead of TWO, because there's two dope queens, and we definitely don't want to run afoul of Phoebe Robinson and her group, because we're kind of like we're just gonna, and then also it clears the way for Kevin to fire me at some point, because there's not a number that he would have to keep. He's just like, I'm just too dope.
oh, nice.
Hi, this is Kevin Adams with Two Dope Teacher. Two Dope Teacher.
There was never an S. The S was overrated.
Yes.
That was just a typo.
right.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh.
If you ever do the hostile takeover, it has to become the most dope teacher, though.
That's it.
Yeah,
Then they can drop the T, most dope.
Most dope.
Yeah. Dope.
When you drop letters off the end, that makes them cooler. That's what French
We really
taught me.
should have consulted
That's it.
you on some of these naming possibilities. I'm kind of like, man, we could start other podcasts now. Hey, Kev, what if we start like 3 other podcasts? And
3 other podcasts. Well,
just
remember, we're going to have a rogue episode. We're going to just have an episode that's just about the Denver Nuggets and sports. We got to do that soon.
we got to.
We didn't even talk about the game on
Nah,
Thursday.
we didn't.
You're just skip that.
Listen. I'm not drawing any conclusions until game 3.
That's it. That's
Okay.
it.
You know, like
That
Sports.
seems reasonable.
we're fine. It's
Really?
fine.
Mealy and I had a conversation the other day with, I forget which of our interviews it was, but we were talking about like crashing other podcasts by pretending to be different professions.
Yes.
he's like, let's just post as like, a NASA astronaut and
yes,
get an interview.
That's it.
Make up a
You
bunch
guys
of
background check your guests? We don't.
No.
We just check
Could
their
be
Twitter.
anybody. Could be anybody.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain people that we've been bothering for a really long time to come on the show. Like I'm pretty sure Talib Kweli is about to block us. Let's see. Who else have we bothered to try to get on the?
Jeffrey Duncan Andrade.
Yes.
Like
Bell Hooks.
Bell
we
Hooks.
tweet at Bell Hooks all the time. We're like, hey, come on our show.
Come on our show.
Come on our show.
Yeah.
She's like, no.
This morning I was tweeting at Mahmoud Abdul Rauf to see if he would come on the show. He's responded, like he liked.
That's what you said.
He liked something I posted about him, so we're definitely friends.
And who is that?
Definitely friends.
And who is he? Like, your references are like too cool.
Oh,
for
my
me.
bad. So that's right, because y'all don't follow the NBA. Mahmoud Abdul Rauf was starting point guard for the Denver Nuggets back in the early 90s.
Okay.
And he used to be Chris Jackson. When he played college ball, he was like national, like All-America, guard from LSU. And he got in trouble because
he was the original Kaepernick.
He was the original Kaepernick. He
Okay.
And it wasn't even it wasn't even a major social issue. He wouldn't.
It was religious.
He wouldn't put his hand on his heart for the national anthem because he was Muslim.
So more like a Muhammad Ali thing, really.
Yep.
He would pray. He would pray during the national anthem, and he got run out of the league.
Okay.
And so just a very different league that the NBA is now. But he's still doing dope work, and like I said, I think he's still in Denver also.
Yeah.
So there's a non-zero chance.
Well, just a thought. 'Cause we've tried to think of different people who would make sense. Like any coach would make sense because coaching and teaching is really similar. So if you could get any NBA coach,
a little different.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
paycheck is different.
I don't know about y'all, but in Denver, we are balling in Denver.
Yeah. So I imagine there's some
hey, y'all, I make thousands of dollars a year. Come on.
Roll in my fine Nissan Altima.
That's it.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
Underrated Altima, I'll say. It's very
underrated.
Rims are spinning. They're not supposed to be, but
they're not supposed
I can't
to
get
be
new
spinning.
ones.
They are.
They're a little loose. Think I lost something there. Are we way ahead of schedule in taking this
I don't know what we're at.
Rails or like
there were rails?
Where there were rails?
Yes.
Wait.
But Gerardo, at any point when you feel ready to hit us with the prompt, my brother.
We're
okay?
too dope
Oh,
and
am I starting?
unprofessional.
Yes, you're starting, you silly boy.
oh, my bad.
You didn't read that.
We've been
order?
all the three of us have been just waiting on you while you've been wandering down the road. Yeah.
That's all right.
Oh, look, it does.
Welcome to my world.
Your question.
Maybe I should have highlighted. Maybe I should have changed the font. I don't know.
Reading is fundamental, kids.
Kev will tell you that I need a 504. All right, so here we go. Let's see. Let's start with this one. What's the biggest risk you've ever taken as a teacher, and did it pay off?
Wow.
Starting a podcast, no.
Okay. Do you want to go to this go?
No, I'd have to actually think about it if I want to give a serious answer.
Okay. So I'll do this one because it kind of was a risk, I guess, ish. I started a fantasy football league, and it actually grew to 30 teachers, and we had 3 10-team mini leagues. And so I decided to, and I was really early on, and I was much better than at doing the whole get forgiveness later, and rather than permission. And so I literally went to the TV. We have a weekly little thing. Some schools have daily or whatever, but the little TV studio thing. Yep. I would feed them the scores of Tedisco beat Neely and this teacher beat this teacher by this much, and had it as the sports on the local TV thing, and who beat who in fantasy football, and kept up with the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually it came crumbling down because some other teacher got a bug in the principal's ear and said, "Oh, well, this might be gambling." And we did.
Boo.
Oh, come on. It's not. It's a game of skill, right?
I literally...
To that teacher, if you're listening, you are a cop.
Yes. So I know my stuff. There is literally an act of Congress that says fantasy football is not a
gambling.
You're like, I looked into this.
Congress also says pizza's a vegetable. I don't
That's
know.
right.
Well,
So
I said
go
it's.
with Congress when
I'm
you
not
need
saying
to.
you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know if that's a solid basis for.
Well, my goal is it chili cook-off gambling?
I mean, you win money sometimes.
And you pay an entry fee, right?
That's right.
But it's skill based. I mean, everyone knows there's kind of like a little box you got to be in. It's got to be, chili's got to be chili on some level. I'm like, this is what it's like. It's just a contest. I said there is skill and there's research and there's all that kind of stuff. It's not gambling. So, but she's like, yeah, but if the superintendent comes through the, school and blah, 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 blah. Cause I wanted to post, we did live drafts where we had like these stickers that you put on this big thing. And, I wanted to hang it up in the lobby of the school so people could like go, oh, Mr. Mealy, I can't believe you took so-and-so in the third round. That was stupid.
That's
you know what I mean? And,
no, the kids love this smack talking between teachers. They love it.
Exactly. That was my point. Like this will actually lead to like kids, doing stuff. You know what I mean? So it paid off for a little bit, but then I kind of got taken up. So that was I guess a big risk.
So would you say it paid off?
It paid off in relationships between teachers, okay? And camaraderie. There were these two teachers that didn't even know each other. One was a guidance counselor, one was a teacher, and like one couldn't make it to the draft, so the other one drafted the team for the other one. I said, you guys can co-own the league or the team. They ended up becoming like really good friends, and one moved away, and they still text each other all the time.
Oh, wow.
And they just really formed like an incredible bond with each other over just, who should we start a quarterback this week? So-and-so or so-and-so, or who should we pick up off the waiver wire? And they really became like really good friends. And a lot of teachers developed relationships. I got an email from or a text rather from a counselor earlier. He's like, it was my first year at the school and I came, you invited me, and I really felt connected to everyone at the school after I did that. And I'm like, yeah, it's beautiful.
I mean, people just need an excuse to get together, and teachers especially, because we don't have time or energy.
Yeah. Sadisco, who knows nothing about football. Sadisco, how much fun was the draft when there's 30 teachers like in a sports bar together?
Oh, it was great. And I don't know thing one about sports, which means I crushed that year because all I had were the numbers in front of me. I had no loyalty. I had nobody I cared about. I'm like, who? What's a Kevin Tucker? Yeah, I'll take it.
I'll take him.
And of course, I'm sure that infuriated, guys like Mealy who are like, yo, I studied.
Studying, watching.
You're like doing the equivalent of.
I'll take Mahomes.
I make my own.
Mahomes.
I color code a Google Sheets. I make my own Google Sheets and I have it color coded. For real, I do. This year I didn't do it.
An hour before and just looked at numbers.
You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, he got a lot of points.
That's it.
Good for him. There's a Chiefs? Did you guys know there's a team called the Chiefs?
Wow. These guys look like they're going to be good. That's great. That's great.
All right, biggest risk.
Like when I think about risk, I feel like I take one all the time, and I think about like the things I do in front of my students. Like I remember we were 2 years ago, we were studying refugees. And so I was like, how do I get the kids like really to understand? And I was going to have them write raps about refugees to raise awareness about refugees. And so I was like, okay, here we go. And so like I got the iPad and made my little beat. And then, I did my rap. And, you're sitting up there in front of the kids and you're like, okay, here we go. And I'm like, telling them, I'm like, oh, I got a new track for you, a new hot track from a new rapper. His name is Lil Educated. Lil Educated. Y'all got to look out. And they were like, oh my gosh, who is this Lil Educated? And then I played the beat and they were like, oh, wait a minute. That beat slaps. That beat goes hard. And then like I come in and they were like, oh my gosh, is that you, mister? Is that you? And they were like, hold on, we're listening to it. And then they were into it, But I think when you do stuff like that, and at the beginning of this year, I don't know if you guys know this, I'm a musician, but at the beginning of this year, I was sharing some of my music with the students, because I figured you have to open yourself up,
Mm-hmm.
So with the students, I think there's that risk all the time where it's just like, I got to put myself out here. Mm-hmm. I got to do something wild to get your attention. I got to, be out there, right? And so in my class, I remember too, one year, the security guard came up and they were like, what are you guys doing up here? What are you doing? And like, I think like the kids were doing like, what's that Mexican boot dance that they do, Gerardo?
Man, you got to be more specific. Like,
like there's several Mexican boot dances.
Yeah, like,
but it's the one where they're like,
and they're really all not that different from each other.
Where they all sit there and they're like,
it's like they're doing the quick feet.
Yeah.
That's the zapateada.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So my kids are sitting there.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
They're sitting there doing that, and like they come up, they're like, "What's going on up here?" And I'm like, "Oh, they were just dancing for a little bit." I was like,
"Yeah, because it's wild, because it's loud." And we have a lot of our Mexicano kids who wear their boots to school, and so so we'll do it.
I love it. But then also I think about like the risk I take as the adult, right? Like as the building leader. I think those other risks, the way they pay off, to go to the second part, is that it just builds the relationship with the students. It gives them an example, makes them more willing to take a risk in the space. With adults, I think it's like in professional development. It's sharing controversial ideas that I know like nobody else has said it, and it kind of goes back to the origins of our podcast, as we'd sit there in PD and people would say stuff and you just be like, what is going on? What are you talking about? They'd be like, well, these kids, they just don't want this type of learning or this type of education, and never, ever asking, well, how am I trying to present it? And does it connect with the kids? Like one of my pledges this year was like, I am going to say stuff that, and at first I was saying like, I'm not going to be nice to white people anymore. And then I was like, no, I can't say it that way. That's not nice. But I have to say what I'm saying is I'm not going to worry about holding my words to offend white people and white sensibilities, especially when it comes to education of kids of color, because I think there's a lot of harmful stuff. And so like, I think taking those risks, and Gerardo can talk to this, I think alienates us sometimes from some people in our staff.
Yeah.
And,
makes them uncomfortable.
It makes them uncomfortable.
But if the problem is mentioning race makes a teacher uncomfortable, maybe they shouldn't be a teacher.
I mean,
that's real talk. Right?
Yes.
Real talk.
Yeah, and what they don't understand is it could be worse. We could, and rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. We could become the Jabari on these fools and just start barking at them.
That's it. That's it.
They're like, well, I don't think we should talk about college. So they don't understand. It could be worse.
Yeah.
But I also I think that uncomfortable holds hands with growth. You know what I mean? And if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not growing.
That's right. No, I think that's so true. And so I think from taking those risks, the payoff is that I think we have pushed people's thinking, like, around us. I don't think they all come around to thinking like us, but like you have to acknowledge this idea of, that, and like a big risk that I took this year, I was like leading PD and I did Family Feud, like it was our retreat. And so like I asked 10 questions in this survey, and the last question I was trying to set people up was, which part of your identity most impacts your teaching, right? And so like a predominantly white school, or predominantly white staff, I should say.
Predominantly white profession.
Right. And so like we get all these great answers. My love of students, my passion for my subject, my passion for learning, blah, 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 blah. And then a couple, you could tell people are like, I'm Mexican, or people are like, I'm Latinx, I'm indigenous, I'm black, my race is what it like. And so like, you could tell there were like 5 of those responses and the rest. And I was like, why do you think that the teachers of color went to their race, their heritage, their culture?
But he also did this as Steve Harvey. Like, that's the thing that you're not mentioning. Hey, pretty soon you won't have to put on a fake mustache, man.
That's what I'm going for.
Where'd you get the mustache?
That's what I'm going for.
Oh, man.
But I think I had taken the Steve Harvey mustache off because I had to get serious at this point.
Because it kept falling off.
Yeah. But I was like, I just want to point it out. I was like, look, y'all are all white teachers.
Yeah.
Your race doesn't impact, you don't think it impacts your instruction? like, you don't think, like, and I'm like, that's the definition of white privilege. You're not even thinking about it. It's not even there.
And it helped for a lot. Like, for me, when sitting in that one, I was kind of like, is this a trick question? Like, this is too easy. Like, this is, I'm brown. and it was fun, but it was interesting because I was talking to an older white male who is one of the most anti-racist co-conspirators I know. Yeah. And even for him, it was like, I never really thought of that. And so it was interesting. And, it was that was cool.
There's that classic anecdote that two fish are swimming along and an older fish is swimming the opposite way. The older fish says, "Hey guys, how's the water today?" And they nod at him and they keep swimming on. And the two fish, as they go along, go, "What the hell is water?" That's what it is to be a white teacher.
It really is. It really is. Yeah. You don't notice the milk when the raisin notices, right? You know what I mean? The milk.
That's right.
The raisin knows I'm in the milk, and the milk's like, "What?"
Oh man,
that's funny.
Oh, that's good.
All right, Kaniska, what's your risky thing, man?
Fun fact.
Oh yeah.
Kevin actually wrote the theme music for our podcast, so
which is fantastic.
I was so good.
I wrote the theme music for our podcast, but it's not nearly as good. So anyway, go ahead.
I actually thought I was wondering how long it would take for Mealy to ask you guys to make us new theme music.
Kevin, I'm getting your email, Kevin. I need a beat on the back of our theme song. I don't know if you've heard our theme song or not, but it needs a little.
Also a melody. Also
let me check it out. I can mess with it. We can do. Yeah.
This is his first love. So like
that's it. That's
okay.
It.
Cool. Yes. Right, go ahead.
Nice.
My biggest risk as a teacher. Guys, I'm not a risk taker. I think when I talk about my big rebellious stories, be like, yeah, I once jaywalked at 3 p.m. Like,
there you go.
I was never a big rebel or risk taker. But the one thing I will say is, like, I get very passionate and fired up about teaching. And I'm also the kind of person who I have no inherent respect for people of authority. So there have definitely been times where, like, I have no problem getting into an argument with admin. So there have definitely been times where admin will try to push something and I will just absolutely stand up and say, no, this will not work. That is absolutely going to hurt our students. What are you talking about? And I once got into a huge argument with two of my admin who tried to restructure the way our grade level was doing things. So yeah, we wound up arguing. We started this argument at like 1. School ends at 2:15. I went up fighting with them until 3:30.
Wow.
And yeah, I really damaged my relationship with one of them. The other one, we could patch it up. Like, I don't get vicious when I fight. Like, I don't get personal or anything like that. But I'm gonna stand my ground. And so I'd say that's probably the big risks that I take. I have no problem pushing against admin. I have no problem sending out emails saying, like, this is really dumb. And I'd say that's where the only time I'm ever a risk taker. And it usually doesn't pay off. Usually all I get is that Cassandra syndrome where I get to look at the end of the year at all of the data and go like, look, guys, it didn't work. And then the next year we come back and Edmund goes, well, guys, your grades really dropped. Then uses our dropped grades to continue to interfere. And so I don't know if that ever pays off, but it sure makes me feel good. I garnish some respect for my colleagues.
I imagine you get the private, like, people coming to you and saying, no, I totally agreed with you, though. It's so right.
Yeah. I'm glad you said something.
And then they're looking around they're like,
right.
I gotta go.
Right. I was like, yes, guys, I'm a straight white man. I can say whatever I want. It's nice.
Yeah, there you go. No, I mean, that's so interesting. And I mean, at some point we'll have to talk about admin fragility because, like, we've had
that the new book? Is that the next one in the series?
Like it.
Yo, I'm saying, like, there's times that you say one little thing that's kind of like, I'm kind of curious as to how this aligns with our school's mission, and they're like, see, I need you to mind your tone.
Gerardo, you need to copyright admin fragility for real. You need to book timestamp this. Gerardo has got admin fragility because it's
an admin fragility podcast.
I did once have an entire meeting that fell apart because somebody in my team raised their hand and said, "How are we ever going to use this?" And the person in the meeting just flipped out. Oh my good, it got so ugly and so awkward. Oh, dude, they're like, just shut up and let me get through this. Yeah, and it wastes everyone's time when you...
Yes.
Yeah, the notion that we might want to know how we're going to use the things you're telling us to use.
All right, Gerardo, how about your biggest risk?
No, does he get to answer? Is he allowed to answer?
I got to answer.
Yeah, you got to answer your own question.
He's just putting us on the spot.
Man,
I'll take it.
My biggest risk is being a brown man in America. No.
That's it.
So I think my biggest risk that I think I took, I taught hip-hop studies a couple years ago, which is a risk in and of itself, because you don't realize when you're like, because for me, I'm just like, I just love hip-hop, and I think there's some wonderful messages, and I think these things. And as I kind of dug into it, I'm like, oh man, teaching hip hop as the focus of the course, as opposed to just, hey, so we're going to do a paired text with Langston Hughes and Pac. It's different. And, so you have to interrogate all of your assumptions. You have to interrogate your assumptions about what appropriate language is in a classroom. You have to interrogate your assumptions about kids who speak out of turn, because all hip hop has ever been is an entire genre of music that speaks out of turn, right?
Right.
And so, so we kind of got into it, and one of my students suggested, "Hey, you should make us perform a song we like." And and Kevin will tell you, our kids are hard workers. They like to be nerds, and they really don't like having people watch them do things. Like,
that's right.
It's like I had a kid drop my class once, before they even showed up, because they heard that they might have to speak in front of people, right? and so so I was like, all right, let's do it. Yeah, you don't have to be great, just 30 seconds and do this stuff. And I was thinking to myself, this could be really problematic, because I put no limitations on what song they could pick. I put no limitations on what they could do with profanity and stuff like that. And I definitely didn't have a plan B if anybody didn't want to do it. Right. And so it was one of those things where I kind of went out on this limb, and really the turning point, and I still question my choice of doing this. But I had a young man and a young woman perform, Bodak Yellow. And that's intense. That's Cardi.
And I have no idea what that is. So again,
it's Cardi B, and Cardi B is.
Yes, I know who Cardi B is.
She's got the new hot track WAP.
Yes, I do know that.
I'm not going to go into what the acronym
No, because then you'll have to click that little E on when you upload it.
Yeah.
You can look it up on Urban Dictionary, teacher.
I think it has something to do with working towards academic progress.
Yes. That's it.
That's definitely what it is.
So you're familiar with to play it in PD. It'd be like, here's what we're going to be doing this year.
Yeah, exactly.
I rewrote the words. I rewrote the words. Working towards academic progress.
So what was interesting was... So what was interesting, we really have to do that, actually. All of us have to just, we need to commit to doing that. I came up with a thing. Everybody picks it out. And then we have to talk about how we have to actually talk about this in front of kids, because it's important that kids know,
yes,
what our focus is.
So we're working towards academic progress. That's can that be the
you
theme
just write
for
it
the
on
year?
the board. This year, they'd be like, Mister.
Yeah.
Mister.
They're like, are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah. So get it on like a little ribbon and have every teacher wear it or something, right?
Totally.
Oh my God. We've crossed the line.
We have. We need that problematic sign. So here's what was interesting about that. Like it was really risky. And I think that if I didn't I've been at my school, this is my 15th year at my school. Yeah. And if I hadn't been there for that long and had a long track record of just good relationships and good practice, like parents want their kids in my class. And so if I hadn't had that, I don't know if I'd take that risk. Mm-hmm. But what was interesting is after that particular performance, then they all wanted to do theirs. Like there had been this kind of like, I don't know. My favorite was my boy Philip, doing Fat Joe's Lean Back.
Yeah.
And it was just like amazing. And so what was interesting for me was that when these students got up in front of their peers, having fun, doing this performance, it brought something out of them that I'd never seen before. Like, all of a sudden, they weren't afraid to make a mistake. All of a sudden, they were willing to act bigger than what they felt like they actually were. And I think that captured in a moment, in a class period, of why hip-hop pedagogy is so powerful, because it essentially says to young people, look, people are going to think that you're smaller than you are, and you might think that you're smaller than you are, and you might actually be small. But if you act big, and if you act courageous, and you act like you're in control, like, there's some good stuff to be gained from that. So that could have went sideways in so many different ways. Yep. Yes. But you know, it was fairly safe. Like, if one parent had complained, then I would have had to have some serious conversations. Yeah. But the students.
And what grade level is it, Gerardo?
Man, so that was the other thing. This was like grades 9 through 12.
Okay. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I say, once I've taught 10th and 11th graders, and when you get to the 11th graders, they get like, hey, what happens in this room stays in this room. This was a lot of fun. If you want to keep having fun, you don't let anyone in this room tell their parent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my 11th graders told me, you're the first teacher I've ever had who doesn't curse. What?
You're like, really?
Again, not a rebel.
That's funny.
No.
That's funny.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, it was one of those things. I think that there are ways to be a little bit smarter about that kind of risk, but ultimately seeing the kids just step into a much larger kind of version of themselves was just dope.
That's cool. And I was going to say, anytime you can get something that starts to feel competitive in a class, and that's the thing, what it seems like happened. Like, one kid really brought it, and then everyone's like, "Oh, we can like really bring it." Like, once someone brings it, then everyone's like, "Oh, I can do better than that." You know what I mean? And then it kind of like steps it up, and it becomes fun.
And none of them want to be the first person to go all in.
Nope,
no,
nobody wants.
But the moment somebody goes all in, everybody is for going all in.
Yep.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
And now for a word from our sponsors.
Hey guys, this is an advertisement. A commercial if you want to know what it is.
And they do.
So this is especially for you folks in North Kakalaki and South Kakalaki. You have a house, you have a car, you have life. What do you need? You need insurance. You go, you know what? If I could buy my insurance from a former teacher, that's what I'd like to do. Hey Tedisco, do you know anyone that has a business selling insurance who used to be a teacher?
You know I do, and I think you do too. Pimentel?
Yeah, he used to teach with us, but he doesn't anymore. And apparently there's some guy Garcia that he knows. So they've got insurance. You need insurance. There's a link in the show notes.
You know, we're all kind of looking at bottom line. We're looking at what's going to help us, what's going to be easiest. Check it out, talk to them, get a quote, and they will help you out.
And it's at Pimentel, Pimentel, Garcia.com. So you can email them that info. You can go to the website, or you can call 704-272-3535. It's all listed in the show notes. Swipe down and click, baby. You're there. And then get your insurance from a teacher, not from some weird lizard or from some ball guy who says ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-da-da. No, you don't want that. You want it from a teacher. That's where you want your insurance.
When you call up Pimentel Garcia Insurance, make sure you tell them you heard it from us. And now, back to the show.
All right, we're ready for round
we're ready for you to discuss.
Round 2. Ding, ding, ding.
All right, fight. All right, so round 2 is, all right, let's say in your curriculum plan, right, for the year, you wind up getting ahead, right? And so you can have sort of an extra day, maybe, a Friday or something in your week, and you can teach whatever you want. You got one day to teach one lesson to your class on anything. What would you teach as sort of like an extra thing? What would be sort of your go-to?
What is that go-to extra thing to teach on it? I tend to go to music. Mm-hmm. I tend to go to music and social movement. So I don't know if you guys know, like, there's an organization, teachrock.org. No. But I go to them, and they are a great organization who has multidisciplinary lessons about all genres of music. From hip-hop, the history of sampling, math lessons related to sampling, language arts lessons related to the words, analysis. Then, they have lessons about the Grateful Dead. So I get this email, and they're like, celebrating 50 years of the Grateful Dead. And so like every sort of music genre, punk lessons.
Those are my boys, by the way. I saw the Grateful Dead 13 times in 6 different states.
Oh my gosh, Mealy. We should connect. We really should, because I saw him 11 times.
Sweet.
With Jerry.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I saw him when... maybe 11 songs of theirs. So,
I mean...
I go to teachrock.org. I love music, or it's going to be social justice history. Like, the more contemporary stuff, that's what the kids love. So, like, anytime I can go to that type of stuff where it's just free, like, you know, like teaching about Trayvon Martin, right? Like, so, like, they like, want to know that stuff, right? Or also, like, you know, the questions that they always have, like, and so, like, sometimes it's just the conversations about, like, history. And that's what I love, you know, because the kids will be like, what really happened in World War II? Because they'll be like, and I teach middle schoolers, right? And so like they have some concept of it, and it's like a lot based on pop culture, what they've heard parts. And so like a lot of misconceptions, but once you start to get into this stuff, like it's amazing how much they will just sit there and just be like, oh, and so wait, and how does this relate to this? And how does that? So like stuff like that, that's what I go.
Cool. You want to go, Gerardo, or can I go?
You can go.
Okay. So, kind of speaking of that, and I'm trying to make this a thing, Kevin. And so I've started incorporating into my lessons. I just call it BL Monday, okay? Or BL, so Black Lives Matter Monday. And so like every Monday, even though I teach math, I like give like a little 5-10 minute, thing. And we just kind of get in, like we got into Principal Kafil one time. And I know you guys like had like a Bettina Love. And I talked about the touch the pole thing with them and showed them the touch the pole, video and just different things that I'm kind of like doing that kind of, you know, I'm like, and I guess that's a risk thing I'm doing as well. But I'm like, I'm going to like, it's not a big risk. I'm like, again, like I'm like a white math teacher. I'm going to have a job, but like there could be someone that go to their parents like, what's he doing talking about that like in math class? But I'm like, what's up? Let's do it. If I had a choice to teach a lesson, honestly, the thing I would be teaching on normalizing therapy and normalizing just talking about mental health issues and just like I would like literally share to them about me and my wife, you know, how we weren't like close to divorce, but like it was, you know, we were hitting like 16 years, 17 years, and it was just, it wasn't what it was anymore. And my wife's like, listen, if we don't do something, it's gonna suck. So I said, and I didn't want to go. I really had like no desire. I thought it was gonna be stupid. I'm like, I'm just going because you keep saying we need to go, so I'm gonna go. And then I went the first time and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I want to do this like every week. And so like, and I'll talk to certain kids about it who've like told me that they're going through stuff and have been and whatever. And so I just want to like try and get kids to understand that, you know, going to therapy and talking about your feelings and trying to get better about communicating and understanding who you are does not mean that you're like a crazy person or a bad person or like, you know, whatever. So, that would kind of be what I would go to if I just had a day just to, do whatever.
Yeah. I always have that thought where like, I'll see kids in my class and like, I know just looking at them, like there's like, you need some sort of tinkering. Like you're definitely showing signs of bipolar or borderline or PTSD, definitely.
Yeah.
And you know that they're going to be running into trouble with that in the future. And you know that's going to impact them more than, you know, not knowing who Emily Dickinson is. Like if they took that class to go get some therapy, they could get a diagnosis or some medication. I mean, that would serve them so much better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And our kids are dealing with so much anxiety and all of those types of issues right now. You know, it really, and this was before the pandemic, right? You know, so I taught a class called Global Service Learning last year. And so, you know, I did surveys on issues that came up, and in every one of my classes, anxiety, depression, suicide were like in the top 5. For each of those, you know, because those are big issues in their lives, right? And so I really think that's critical. I think it's needed, like, you know, and that's one benefit, you know, and I don't know how it's happening, but like the stressing of SEL at this time in education, you know. But again, SEL can be problematic if it's not done correctly.
Legitimate SEL, not checking the box SEL.
Yep.
Let's talk about organization.
Yeah.
Like,
You'll be so much happier if you're more organized. Do you have index dividers for your notebook?
Yes.
It's like
arrange your cereal boxes in Roy G. Biv, okay?
There's that one kid who's like, yes, this actually makes me feel better. Like,
Now let's go to the third icebreaker in a row. Everybody try to say your name backwards.
That's right.
No, I love what you said about prioritizing, like, and normalizing mental health and those kinds of things, because I think that, if any of you at this virtual table or anything like me, you look back and you're like, oh man, I had some issues. And wow, what if somebody had talked to me about them? Like I was a kid who was like, I did a lot of posturing, but I was open to talk about the things that were hurting me. Just nobody ever
was like, let's talk.
Ever asked. Nobody was like, hey, I know you're really quiet most of the time, except for when you're getting mad at me. But what's up? You good?
Yeah.
Because I would have been like, no. That's how it goes. I'm not okay.
That's right.
So I do one of two things. If it's the kind of group that where we've got kind of the makings of a really positive community and culture, we'll do a cipher. Like we'll circle up and kids will write a quick freestyle about something that we studied that week. I'll do a demonstration. Like I'll sit and I'll fire out something like, I had something that I wrote last class, I teach ethnic studies, and we were talking about discrimination. And so I was like, so just write a quick little thing and just share it. And so the one I wrote was respect also means respect of self, respect your spirit and your intellectual wealth. Right.
Nice.
And so I'm like, I did that in like 2 minutes. Y'all just put something together. And so if I have the trust, we'll do that. And that, and that's fun. And some of them will sometimes want to battle, which is kind of fun. But generally, it's hard to know if you're in that spot. So what I always try to do is something that's going to bring our community together, that's going to tighten relationships and help every student be seen. And so what I'll do is I'll give everybody a piece of construction paper. I'll say, put your first and last name on this piece of construction paper and then hang it on the wall somewhere. And then I just make everybody, so now your job is to go around and write something genuinely positive about that person on their poster. And you can't be like, Kev, you cool. You have to like say something specific like, Kev, I love your smile. You are always laughing, and that just makes me happy in class and that kind of thing. And so they'll kind of like be like, this is weird. And then I'll say, so that's yours. Put it in your locker when you need a boost.
Yep.
Nice.
So those little like community boosting things I try to build whenever I can because, I love the kids at our school. Our kids come from all over the city of Denver. We used to be a magnet. But now we're somewhere we're like the worst version of not a magnet and not a public school, like not a neighborhood school. Right. And so we have like a few kids from the neighborhood and a few kids not. And so, but we reflect the direct demographics of the city of Denver, which is beautiful to me. And when I tell the students, I'm like, I make y'all talk to each other because you are all hella dope. You are so cool. And I don't think it's fair that I'm the only one that knows that. Like y'all should talk to each other. Don't wait till senior year at graduation to be like, dang, I didn't know you were cool until a week ago. You know, this is the time to like get to know each other and just connect because we're all trying to fight through this together. So that's kind of where I tend to go.
Cool.
That's good stuff.
That's awesome.
That's always
That's
good
awesome.
stuff. And the kids love to do that. They get into it too. It starts out slow when I've done it, but then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah. And then they love to go back. Right to theirs when they finally get back to theirs, and they're like,
you have the kids that weaponize it that are kind of like, no, you can't because you said you put on my poster that you said that you respected my opinions.
So now you got to listen to me all the time. They're like, yeah, okay, all right. That's right. I did tell you that. Created this monster.
Tedisco, did you want to answer your own question?
Sure. So I found out about this concept and I really, really liked it because I always try to focus on empathy in the classroom. When I learned about it, I found an article by the failing New York Times and turned it into a handout for my students. So I always teach them that. You guys ever heard of the Dunbar number?
No.
So it was a guy named Robin Dunbar, and he was studying primates. And he was trying to find like their grooming patterns, see like how many people could be their I don't know what you would call a group of chimpanzees. A group, a tribe, a flock. I don't
know.
Anyway,
I don't know.
There's a name for it though.
Right.
I think you call it a good all.
A good
there
all.
we go. He was studying how big a good all could get.
Yes.
Right. And so what he found is like there's a direct correlation between like basically like certain parts of their brain that could control empathy and how big their tribes are. Right. And he studied this with like a whole bunch of different primates. And I know this sounds boring, but it's getting. So what he did is he followed that same logic and that same sort of mathematical formula all the way up to humans because we have a similar brain.
Yeah.
And what he determined is he found something called the Dunbar number. He said, we basically have the empathy to be able to care about 150 people. And that's it. After that, we max out. And so once we max out our Dunbar number, everybody else just becomes sort of clusters. And so we have trouble even identifying them as humans.
Yep.
So that's why when your friend breaks their leg, it's a tragedy. And when a tsunami hits Japan, it's just interrupted.
Yeah.
Like, because you can't, your brain literally can't register that those are humans.
So interesting. Yeah.
I teach them that and sort of the limitations of our empathy and what to do when we find ourselves generalizing and saying everybody like this is X, right?
Yeah.
All immigrants are, all Muslims are, all white people are, like, you know, and so we just gotta kind of be able to recognize that because we can't fix it. So,
wow. Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Unprofessionals, for listening to part 1 of our PODSWAP with 2 dope teachers. Tune in next week to hear the second half, and here's a little taste of what that sounds like.
So, guys, I've got a game for us to kind of finish this up, okay?
All right, here we go.
I think you guys will really like this, okay? So it's kind of a takeoff on, you may be familiar with a game from back in the day that was called Kill, Marry, Have Relations With, okay?
Yes. We know this game very well.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I concur.
It took me a second.
But instead...
have relations. I know it by another name. Yeah,
no one's biblical sense.
Instead, we're going to play, they become your admin, they become your student, or they become your colleague. Okay? Right. So I'm going to give you 3 people, some of them might be real, some of them might be fictional, from a certain category, and you have to pick, do I want them to be my admin, do I want them to be my student, or do I want them to be my colleague? Okay?
Brilliant.
Oh, I love
it. Brilliant.
Okay, so this game could literally be a whole show forever, okay?
That's right.
I've got 20...
Enjoy the new podcast.
To ask your question, what do we do when we have free time? There's a lot of different applications, but let's go.
I've got 20 here, okay? So I'm going to start with Gerardo. And Gerardo, I'm going to give you a couple of categories to choose from, okay? I think some you might go with. So you can go I'm going to give you 2 NBA ones. You can go, I've got a list here. NBA star or NBA big men, or do you want to go Olympic athletes?
Let's go NBA big man.
Okay. So you have to make one of them your admin, you have to make one of them your student, and you have to make one of them your colleague. Okay? You've got Shaq, Duncan, and Hakeem.
Ah!
Oh, wow.
Okay. So who's the admin?